Well, good morning to you, Tony Virtue speaking, Virtue and Partners, with our regular monthly update. And Happy New Year to you all. I hope you had a good break. Markets have been very kind. We've had the best start for January in 20 years. And there are reasons for this. And what I tend to do at the beginning of the year is go through, if I can say, the likely positives for the year and probably the wrong word, but the potential negatives for the year. So I thought what I might do is just focus on what I see as 5 real plus points and 3 risk points. That said, as I indicated, January markets were up close to 10%. So starting with some of the positives, I think we can't underestimate the effect of COVID on global markets. And it's taken 3 years really for that to work its way through the system. China now is really the last country to go through that. If it plays out the same way, China will have an awful lot of disposable income where 3 years they basically haven't travelled and been able to consume to the level that they would. That will be very strong for our markets. It'll be very strong for our resources sector. It does look like relationships are improving, so they'll be able to buy our wine and lobsters and things like that. So see that as quite a significant net positive. The Chinese economy now getting nearly as big as the United States, to put in context there. Second thing I would say is the obvious growth of technology. One of the things that COVID did, of course, was to really bring some of these things to a fore. So, things like Zoom, using Google Maps and getting from A to B quicker. I think we probably lose sight of just how efficient we are getting globally and getting things done. And that efficiency, again, is a good thing for markets longer term. Difficult question, but supposedly a bit of a stalemate in the Ukraine. Obviously, last year it materially affected energy prices. It does look like the Allies have given the Ukrainians enough weapons not to lose, and so from there may be a negotiated settlement. But the practical effect of that is Western society is now using different alternative energy sources. That, again, longer term will be a positive. And again, let's not forget this was the biggest conflict in Western Europe since the Second World War, 80 years. So we've been through a fair bit, and it's to be expected that markets will seesaw. It takes a little while for that stability to come through there. The fourth thing I would say is net migration back into Australia. I've really had 3 years of no migration, and for the first year since Federation last year, we actually went backwards as far as our population went. So there's 500,000 visas being processed at the moment, and we're looking to get, I think, up to 190,000 the government is targeting in full-time migration this year. All of that should be good for inner city, for property prices, for activity there. The last thing I'd say is a fairly obvious thing, which is mean reversion. Very, very rare to have 2 bad years on the go. And part of what you saw in January was a reversion to the mean. Examples, companies like Tesla were up 40% for the month. The NASDAQ, which really covers a lot of that kind of technology type stock, on a bit of a tear now, up to 10-12% for the month. And it's just a general sense now that certainly the US had peaked with their interest rates, or they're very, very close to coming off. If you do look at bond markets now, both in Australia and the US, indicate that rates will be lower this time next year than where they are now. And as a forward-looking indicator, markets begin to take that into account now. Okay, well, they're the positives. What are some of the risks this year? The first and probably most obvious thing, and publicly spoken about by the media, we have a lot of mortgages coming off relatively low fixed interest rates into higher variable rates later in the year. This is not an unknown set of circumstances or news to the banks, to APRA, who've already indicated they may well loosen their standards if that is the case. Generally, there's enough equity in people's homes, enough wriggle room to get through with this, but the practical effect of this is that people will spend much more money on their mortgages, which will give them less disposable income. So that's less money being spent in retail shopping. The retail numbers for Christmas and January actually weren't good here. They're actually quite a negative number. So that's beginning to bite. It's a leading indicator to guide that probably we are close to the very, very top of the interest rate cycle there. Again, as part of that, quite a lot of redundancies in technology and in finance, particularly in the US. So Microsoft laid off 28,000 people. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, etc., laid off 5-6% of their labour force. Those of you in corporate are very aware, you grade your staff A, B, C, D. When things are not so good, you let the Ds go. It's a kind of pleasure and pain type strategy. Difficult for the people affected. Markets like that. I mean, instead of having a labour cost, that's gone into profit. Profit then increases share prices there. Finally, a black swan event. There's always something that can come out of left field that we haven't anticipated. But let's not just chase shadows. I think it's a time to be positive. We've come out of once of a 100-year COVID situation. Governments of the world own trillions of dollars of debt now, which they use to fund people not to work. They do not want interest rates rising themselves. They are also paying interest bills there. Look for technology. You're seeing this ChatGPT and whatever coming through now as more and more efficient ways of doing things. And I think we should go into this year with a sense of quiet confidence. Certainly we're busy here, there's no question. People seem content, seem to be on top of things. So let's believe for a good year. Tony Virtue, when experience pays.